Hi, welcome back to Mrs. Thompson's classroom once again. We're still in our unit on trigonometry, and today we're going to look at law of cosines. We discovered with law of sines there were a couple of times when we could not use it. And so let's take a look at what we could do instead. So if we had side, 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 or we had side, angle, side, we could not use law of sines. And so in both of these cases, we're going to use law of cosines. And what it tells us is that this formula will hold true to relate the three sides and one of the angles. Now notice the side opposite the angle is always the one over here by itself. And so we could rewrite this using angle B. And we could rewrite it using angle C. Okay, but this would need either all three sides known to find the missing angle, or if we know side, angle, side, then this right-hand side of the equation is fully known, and we can solve for the missing side. Okay, so let's take a look at how this works. So let's say we have side, side, side in this case. So we're going to set up a squared equals, so this is a squared, equals b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times the cosine of a. So we're going to do a little algebra. We're going to solve this all out. So I just did the calculations first. So then I'm going to take this 164 and I'm going to subtract it to the other side. And 25 minus 164 is going to be negative 139. We're going to divide by the negative 160. And we get that the cosine of A is equal to 0.86875. I'll go ahead and leave all those decimal places out so that I don't have rounding error. In fact, I would just use the value from the calculator so I don't have to round at all. This would tell me that angle A's measure is the inverse cosine of that value. So I take the inverse cosine of that number, and I get that the measure of angle A is 29.69 degrees. Okay, now I need to go find another angle. So we'll set the same thing up, and I'll use b squared to start with. So that'll be 10 squared equals 5 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 5 times 8 times the cosine of b. So now I can do this same calculation So I'm going to subtract the 25 and subtract the 64. And I get 11 over here equals negative 80 times the cosine of b. Dividing by the negative 80, I get cosine of b equals negative 0.1375. So we can do the inverse cosine. Now be sure not to lose the negative signs. You will get an entirely different answer if I would to lose this negative. Okay, so the measure of angle B is 97.90 degrees. Now that means I have two angles, so I can find angle C by subtracting from 180. So 180 minus 29.69 minus 97.9, and I get 52.41 degrees. Okay. Now, you may be tempted, once you find the first angle, to go back and use law of sines. The problem with this is that when I do that, if I know angle A and I know side A, then this is side B. So here's the 5. The 10 would be here. This is a side-side angle, which is ambiguous. And so it's very possible from law of sines you would get two possibilities. The problem with that is with law of cosines, knowing side, side, side restricts us to one single solution. And when you switched over to law of sines, you wouldn't know which one it was. And so it is really important when you start with law of cosines that you finish with law of cosines. So you will have to do it twice. Okay, now this same sort of thing would work if you knew, instead of knowing side A, you knew angle A. It would work exactly the same way. I just wouldn't end up having to do inverse cosine. But I would find side A first, and then I would go and find my missing angle. Okay, so go ahead and try this practice problem. You can pause the video for a minute and try it out on your own, and then come back and see if you got the solution right. All right, so hopefully you were able to do this practice problem. I'm going to set it up. So I know angle A, so I'm going to start with A squared and use B squared and C squared times the cosine of 35. Now the nice thing in this case is everything on the right is known. So I can do 12 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 12 times 8 times the cosine of 35. I can do that all at once in my calculator. And I get that A squared is 50.7228, and it keeps going. So then we can take our square root, and we get A is equal to 7.122. So now I know all three sides, and I need to find one of the other angles. So let's start with angle B. So I'll do 12 squared equals the 7.122 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times, and I'll keep going with my formula. And then this will be angle B on the end. Okay, so when I solve this out, I end up with 29.277 equals negative 2 times. Then I'm going to divide by all of this. Don't forget the negative. And that'll give me the measure of angle B as 104.89. And then I can find my last angle simply by subtracting from 180. And so angle C is 40.11 degrees. Okay. All right, so hopefully you got that right. If not, if you've got questions, comment below, or if you're in class with me, just bring it to class and we'll see if we can figure it out. But hopefully that helps. See you next time.